facts. My name is Prachi. The modern Korean alphabet, Hangul, was created by King Sejong because he wanted to invent an alphabet so easy to learn that a wise man could learn it in a night, and even a stupid man could learn it in 10 days. And this is a video filled with fun facts about me. Before the invention of Hangul, Koreans used to actually use what's called Hanja, which is basically just Chinese characters to write. And King Sejong was like, the illiteracy amongst the lower classes is ridiculous, so he actually sat down and invented Hangul himself. And it is considered to be by linguists to be one of the most like phonologically faithful writing systems, which is to say that if you know the alphabet, you will know how to pronounce pretty much everything. English, on the other hand, is like not phonologically faithful at all. So there's a little extra fact in your fun fact for the day. Housekeeping. I'm done with my paper. I turned it in. I had to basically take the entirety of Tuesday off because I had like stressed and psyched myself out so much that I basically just needed to sleep and let my body and mind rest. But I'm back. I am serving looks. I'm serving you an ombre lip. I'm serving you a glittery pink eyeshadow. Like, I'm living my best life now. That's a scam. I'm still only maybe at like 65%. The antidepressants take a while to kick in. But I'm doing a lot better. I'm much more stress-free. I feel like I have a grip on my life, which I absolutely did not in the month of March. And I'm like super excited to move forward now. So housekeeping, admin, etc., etc. The March check-in will be coming soon. And by soon, I mean soon, like either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I'll explain more about the formatting of that video within the video itself. The bulk of the content is going to come from like a check-in that I shot within the month of March itself, but I will also be inserting some context, feedback, summaries, etc. You might be wondering then, like, why am I shooting this video at all? Like, why didn't I just film the thing for the March check-in and then publish that? Why 2 bonus videos this week? And really it's because my last video, the Get Ready With Me, was supposed to be a purely logistical video. The only thing I was supposed to say in that video was that I had been struggling a bit during the month of March, tell you guys that I was supposed to be writing a paper, and then let you guys know what my upcoming schedule was. But then I sat down to actually film, and like I said, I'm a verbal processor, so as I talk, I begin to like connect dots and ideas and be creative or whatever. And so in the middle of me kind of like applying my makeup, I was like, wait, I should explain to them why I'm even putting on makeup, which then led me down the rabbit hole of depression and then ranting about depression and what it means. And so that video kind of became a thing which I did not intend it to. It went from being this like purely logistical informational video to instead this like really intense conversation I was having about depression. And my March check-in, because I've edited the bulk of the video down now, it's intense. I filmed it in the actual month of March, right when I was kind of beginning to come out of a depressive phase. And so the version of me that you see in that video is kind of like depressed Prachi trying to figure out and deal with her depression. And I think there's a unfortunate tendency for people who have mental illnesses to then be defined by their mental illnesses, which is so weird because it's like, if I have a broken leg, you're not going to define me by my broken leg, but if I have depression, people will tend to somehow like ascribe your entire personality to your depression. If you have ADHD, people will tend to ascribe your entire personality to ADHD, and it's not true. Like, I'm a whole separate person who just has a particular condition that I'm dealing with right now. And I've gotten so many new subscribers in the last like literally like 10 days or so that I want to make sure that the whole of me, like the full totality of me, the multitudes of me are properly expressed, to sort of guide you and ground you before you get into my March check-in, where I'm talking a lot about, you know, the way I think about myself and the worst opinions I have of myself, etc., etc., etc. So that's kind of what this video is. And this was actually a thing that was sort of suggested by one of my subscribers, where they were like, could you maybe do like 50 fun facts about yourself or something like that so that we have a chance to get to know you? And so I'm not gonna do 50 fun facts, but I will do 25 because I'm 25 years old. Bonus fun fact. And I hope that they'll kind of begin to give you some sense of my personality beyond just, oh, I'm depressed and I have ADHD, because those are not the things I want to be defined by. I want to be me. Having said all of that, let's get it. Fact. Bears eat beets. Bears, beets. Battlestar Galactica. Shout out to The Office. Okay, fact one for real. My first name, Prachi, literally means from or of the east. The name has a really hopeful and bright connotation because east is where the sun rises. It's where a new day begins. It's where light and life emerge from. My last name, Singh, literally means lion. For those of you in the know about South Asian culture, Singh is often a very common Punjabi last name. But I'm actually not Punjabi. Like at all. My father's family is from a place called Nainital in Kumaon, and I spent many a summer running through sugarcane fields there. I actually wear glasses because I'm nearsighted and I have astigmatism. During these videos, I'm either wearing contacts or I've removed my glasses to film temporarily because I hate the glare. Also, I did not spend all of this time and energy to create like a cute, glittery pink eyeshadow look for it to be drowned out by my glasses. But, in case you're curious, this is what my glasses look like. I don't believe in astrology. I literally don't even know what the zodiac signs mean. Like when people say like, ugh, that's such classic Scorpio behavior, I'm like, I don't know what that means. However, I do have friends who are like super into astrology, so out of curiosity, I've looked up, at least in the Western, like astrology zodiac system, my natal chart. I'm a Capricorn sun, Sagittarius moon, and Gemini rising. Also, my chart is apparently like super lopsided because almost everything is in Capricorn. Do I know what that means? No. I learned how to write in cursive before I learned how to write in print because at the time that I was first learning how to write, my older sister was actually learning how to write in cursive, and so she would bring home all of these handwriting workbooks from school for cursive, and I would have my own handwriting workbooks for print, but I was like, oh, I want to do what my older sister's doing because that's cooler. And so I would kind of like steal her cursive handwriting notebooks and use them. And so before I ever learned how to actually write in print, I learned how to write in cursive. And then I had to kind of like learn print later on in life. Here are my top 5 smells in the world. White rice cooking, ripe mangoes, petrichor. That's the way that the earth smells right as it starts to rain on like a warm day. The inside of books, both old and new. Those are technically 2 different scents, but I've combined them into one. And there's this particular spice that's used all the time in South Asian cooking. In Hindi, it's called bhunawa jeera. Apparently, that's roasted cumin seeds in English. Because bonus fun fact about me, I don't actually know the names of a lot of spices in English. I know them either in Hindi or in Nepali. I once memorized the really famous Shakespearean sonnet 18 for an English literature class in the 9th grade. So that's 11 years ago. And even though I've never looked at that godforsaken sonnet since, I still remember it word for word to this day. I'm pretty sure I can recite it from memory right now with like 99% accuracy. My dear subscriber, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of the fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can see, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. I hate that my brain fully remembers that, because while it's holding on to that random poem from pretty much over a decade ago, will it remember what I need it to remember for my international law exam in 2 weeks? Debatable. I used to take ballet lessons until I was 8 years old. I was probably the most graceless student my ballet teacher ever had. I vaguely remember first, second, third, fourth, fifth position, and my Russian ballet teacher yelling at me to keep my back straight, but beyond that, nothing. I've lived in a couple of different countries. I was born and raised in Kathmandu, Nepal, till I was 8 years old, and I often spend summers in India. Then I moved to the US and lived in the state of Ohio till I was 17 years old, at which point I moved to Canada and the Greater Toronto Area, or GTA, where I finally became a Canadian citizen at age 22. My favorite color is yellow. I speak 5 languages: English, Nepali, Hindi, French, and Spanish. I hope to one day also add in Brazilian Portuguese, Korean, and Modern Standard Arabic. I love languages and I love learning them, and I kind of want to be a polyglot one day because I just find language so fascinating and just the amazing ways in which culture bleeds into and informs language. So every time you learn a new language, you're actually learning like an entirely new way of thinking. I think that's so incredible. I graduated high school in 2012 and entered university that same year into an engineering science program. I transitioned from engineering science into electrical engineering before realizing, after a very long time because I'm stubborn and hard-headed, that engineering was not for me. Oh, here's a bonus fun fact, actually. I graduated high school with a 100% average in my top 6 subjects. I was one of like 4 students to do that in a school district of I think 20,000. I made it into the paper, etc., etc. Over the next 3 years, I failed out of the University of Toronto, the equivalent of an Ivy League school in Canada, had a semester where my GPA was a 0.0, and I performed so poorly academically that I was actually refused further admission from the Department of Applied Science and Engineering in the University of Toronto. And last year, at the very same University of Toronto, but in the Faculty of Arts and Science, I managed to achieve a semester GPA of a 4.0, and I made the dean's list. So that song that's like, life is a highway, like, it's really not a highway, guys. It's a roller coaster. Strap in, just enjoy the ride. I get really tense whenever I watch skincare routines and somebody with long nails like applies eye cream or puts their fingers anywhere near their eye, because I'm really worried for some reason that the long nails are gonna like poke them in the eye. I know it's like an irrational fear. I know those people know what they're doing, but something in me just like immediately tenses up when I watch somebody with long fingernails either apply under eye concealer with their fingers or like eye cream. I think part of the reason why I get so stressed is because I know that if I had long nails, I would definitely be poking myself in the eye, but I don't. I keep my nails really short, actually, out of force of habit from my violin playing days. Which leads me to, I played the violin for 8 years and the oboe for 4. Both of those instruments were donated to me by my orchestra and band teachers because my family couldn't afford to like buy me instruments so that I could play them. And looking back now, I'm like, that was so actually generous of my teachers and my school district to get those instruments for me, because they were like, oh, she wants to play, we'll let her play. Anyway, I was like relatively good at the violin, and I would often make either first or second chair for second violins in the string orchestra. Oboe, on the other hand, beautiful instrument, incredible instrument, but not when I played it. I sounded like a dying duck, guys. I really did. I was a disgrace to the oboe. I ended up selling both my violin and my oboe, as well as like a keyboard that I had that I was like teaching myself how to play, for like a little bit over $100, and I used that money to pay off my student loans during some time that I took off in between my years of university, because life's like that sometimes. But I think one day when I'm like settled and comfortable, I might buy a violin again. I might pick it back up because I really did enjoy it. Oboe, on the other hand, I will not be picking up again. Those strangled goose sounds can stay firmly in the past. Thank you very much. My favorite flowers are, in order, lotus, tuberose, jasmine, sunflower, and iris. The scent of tuberose, which I believe in Hindi is called Rajnigandha, the scent of real life tuberose and jasmine is just like unparalleled in my mind when it comes to flowers. I currently double major in international relations and Latin American studies with a minor in French studies, because that's the only minor that they offer. But what that basically means is I'm taking a bunch of courses in French about French linguistics. One weekend in 2010, I was just like Googling things randomly, as I often do, and I came across the fun fact that I revealed at the top of the video about Hangul and how it's considered to be one of the easiest alphabets in the world to learn, and how a wise man could acquaint himself with it in a day. And I was like, I'm not a wise man, but I am a bored teenage girl. And a bored teenage girl who sets her mind on something is unstoppable. So I was like, challenge accepted. And then I got up on a Saturday morning and decided I was gonna teach myself Hangul. And I actually did that in a day. Like, they were right. It's really easy to learn that alphabet and that script. And so even today, like years and years later, I can read Hangul, which is to say that I can read the words without understanding what they actually mean. Much like how, you know, if you can read the English alphabet, you can pretty much read German. Like if I throw up this word at you, like you at least know what those letters are, but unless you actually speak German, you wouldn't know what the meaning of that word was. I'm about to pronounce this super wrong because I don't speak German, but Torschlusspanik means gate closing panic. Like it's literally gate shut panic, and it's an emotion, very specifically the emotion of I'm running out of time. Like the gate is closing and I'm freaking out because there's too much to do and I don't have enough time to do it. And that was definitely the mood for me writing that entire essay during this past weekend. But also I think it's kind of like a life mood, right? Like life is very much so many things to do, so little time. Anyway, circling back, just like you're kind of able to read the letters that make up that word, I'm able to phonetically read and sound out this Korean phrase without actually knowing what it means. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was younger because I really wanted to visit the Horsehead and Orion nebulas, which I had seen like pictures of in books. When I eventually learned that human astronauts had only ever made it as far as the moon, that dream died. I love watching football. And by football, I mean soccer football, like what the entire world except for the US and parts of Canada call football. I know I lived in the US for like 9 years, and I even went to some high school football games to like cheer for the Golden Bears, but I still don't know what the rules of football are. Like even the high school football games that I was watching, I was like, run little man, run. Football, like soccer football though, love it. Although I'm like so busy now because life is so hectic that it's been a while since I've actually given myself the time, space, and energy to sit down and watch a full football match because it's like 90 minutes out of my week and I'm just like so busy with other things right now. Fun fact within a fun factception. I've been doing that with like all of these fun facts, let's be real. I keep saying it's like one fun fact, but then I tell you what Torschlusspanik means, so. But anyway, bonus fun fact about me is that the very first football match I watched was the 2002 World Cup final between Brazil and Germany. I watched it with my dad and my grandfather, and that was the match that made me fall in love with the sport. And it was also the match where my dad and grandpa like taught me the rules of football, like what an offside was and all that kind of stuff. And when I was watching the match, they were like, okay, you need to like pick a team to support. And like I said, I really like the color yellow. Which is the Brazil jersey color. And so I picked Brazil and they played beautifully. And so because of that match and because the Brazilian national team is kind of what like got me into football, they have like a very soft and precious space in my heart. Now, if India, Nepal, or Canada ever makes it to the World Cup, Brazil's dead to me. I don't know Brazil. Like, catch me in these streets waving like the Nepalese flag and the Indian flag and the Canadian flag because I'm a patriotic person. However, until such a time arrives, Brazil is sort of like the default people I root for. Actually, no, I have a very complicated metric for like who I'm rooting for. I always root for all of the Asian and African teams first and foremost because, fun factception, none of them have ever won a World Cup before. Like no Asian or African nation has ever actually won a World Cup. So I always root for them first because they're like the underdogs. And then unfortunately, when they sadly get eliminated, then it's Brazil. If this YouTube channel is still producing content in like 2022, 100% I will be doing like get ready with me's while ranting about football. I wanted to cut my hair short for a really, really long time, but I didn't because I have a really round face and I'm not skinny. And every single like women's magazine I had ever read had said that pixie cuts are only really flattering on people with delicate, angular features and thin, lithe bodies. And then a person that I know was diagnosed with cancer and was going through chemo, and so I cut off a bunch of my hair and donated it. Like, it was short, but it wasn't the haircut I wanted. Like, I wanted to go short. Like, I had in my head like a couple of different hairstyles that were shorter than that were like boy cuts essentially, and undercuts and that kind of stuff. And I just kind of like walked in on a whim to this like hairdresser's place, and there was like a long line, so I was like sitting there and I was waiting. And the woman next to me had like a striking short haircut. And I complimented her on her hair, and we kind of struck up a conversation, and I brought up the reason why I was so afraid to go fully short with my hair. Because, you know, in my life before, I have gotten short boy cuts before, and the response has always been like lukewarm. Why would you do that? You looked so much better with long hair. You look so unfeminine now. What boy is ever gonna wanna date you? And so the last time I cut my hair really short was in 2012. And since then, I've been trying to like grow my hair out and keep it long. And as I was like bringing up these different things, this woman just challenged me on that straight up. She was like, do all men have angular faces? Or do you know some men with round faces? Are all men really thin? Or do you know men who aren't? Do all men have delicate features? Or do some of them have strong features? Isn't it interesting that none of them are ever told that they should have long hair in order to disguise or better complement those features? Isn't it interesting how we almost never think short hair as a whole is unflattering on men, despite many of them having round faces and strong features and chubby bodies? Then the hairdresser called that woman up to go get her hair trimmed, and I was just kind of sitting there like, well, dang, checkmate. And then I walked out of the salon to the nearest Starbucks with Wi-Fi, looked up the photos of the haircut that I really, really wanted to have, and booked myself a proper appointment with the hairdresser to get this. Between the age of 16 and 17, I challenged myself to read 365 books in a year. And I actually did it. Which makes the fact that I read like 7 books in 2018 really sad. The most played song on my phone is a track called Blue Side. It's a really, really short track. It's about 1.5 minutes long. It has this like incredible trip hop vibe in it. It sounds either like you're underwater or floating high in the sky. Oftentimes when I'm feeling like really stressed out, I will put on that track and I will just like listen to it and let myself like breathe in time with it, and then I'm like good to go. I've actually even used that when I feel like a panic attack kind of coming on. It's just like a way to like ground and center myself. May not seem like it, but I'm actually an introvert. I used to be intensely shy and socially awkward and almost like a recluse until I was around 16 years old. There is a heavy price put on women especially for not being sociable. It is okay to some extent for a man to be kind of like misanthropic if he's like really smart and competent, but if you're a woman, no matter how smart and competent you are, you cannot have an attitude. Like, you just really can't in this world. You don't get to be like a tortured genius who like secludes herself from everything if you're a woman. That is a privilege granted mostly only to men, and white men at that. And as I sort of began to get confronted with that reality that there is a price to be paid for being socially awkward as a woman, I realized I needed to change that. And so at around like 16, 17, I began just really observing my mom and my sister, who are like natural extroverts. They're very friendly and warm, and being like, okay, like time to learn and time to push myself and to put myself in situations where I'm kind of uncomfortable. And my mom would be constantly going to like other people's houses in our communities during the week because she loves being sociable and chatting with them. And she'd always ask me, Prachi, do you want to go? And I'd be like, no, like who do you think I am? And I slowly started saying yes and started going to these people's houses. And over the course of kind of like a year of literally putting myself in social situations where I was very uncomfortable, I stopped being shy and socially awkward. And now you can throw me into almost like any room and like internally I'm screaming, but externally I'm like, I'm fine, I can like walk up to somebody, have a conversation, all that kind of stuff. And I do it so successfully that people sometimes get like really shocked when I tell them I'm an introvert. They're like, no, you can't possibly be. You must be like an ambivert or an extrovert or... And I'm like, no, there's this misconception that introversion and shyness are the same thing. They're not. They're two completely different concepts, right? You can be an extrovert and be shy, and you can be an introvert and be sociable and not shy. Introversion, extroversion is more about like where you draw energy and strength from. For me to socially interact with a bunch of people, I need to have had time to myself, to steal myself, to recuperate, to energize myself. And then I can like totally go out into this world and be sociable and happy and excited and talking with everybody, but it takes a lot out of me. I don't get energized by being around other people. I get energized by being alone. And if I like don't have at least some time every week or preferably every day where I am like by myself, with myself, I like start to lose it, right? Like I get increasingly more cranky and short-tempered because my reserve of patience and goodwill just begins to like run dry. Here is a list of every single physical music album I have ever bought in my life. If I did that for an album, that means that at some point in my life, I must have really, really loved that album. Now, some of these I still actually own. A lot of these I've given away, but I have here the full list so that you can really get a sense of what albums teenage Prachi and young adult Prachi thought were like incredible albums that she really, really enjoyed. So in no particular order, In Rainbows by Radiohead, Lungs by Florence and the Machine, Thriller by Michael Jackson, LP1 by FKA Twigs, Mezzanine by Massive Attack, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, Run the Jewels 2 by Run the Jewels, Kashmir by Sweatshop Boys, Mind of Mine by Zayn Malik, Made in the AM by One Direction, and the albums Wings, Love Yourself Her, Love Yourself Tear, and Love Yourself Answer by BTS. Make of that what you will. My blood type is A positive. I try to donate blood at least 3 times a year. I have this like really weird thing with needles where I cannot look at a needle going into my body. It's not even that I would like have a panic attack or whatever, I would probably just like vomit. Like there's something where like I immediately start gagging when I think of a needle going into my skin, specifically at the sight of a needle going into my skin. But like the pain of it or whatever totally doesn't bother me. So I'm one of those people who when I need to get a shot or a blood drawn or whatever, I just look away. I totally don't have a problem with getting shots or vaccines, which vaccinate your kids, people. Kat Von D, I don't know why you would be watching this because I'm nobody, but vaccinate your kids. Like I am literally from a third world country. Like my mom did literally everything in her power to get my sister and I fully vaccinated. Like every single vaccine that was available to us in Kathmandu that she could afford, she gave them to us because she was like, we've seen what things like smallpox and chickenpox and measles and mumps and rubella do to people. The idea of not vaccinating your kids for like ridiculous, like, sorry, I get really heated because I'm like, it is such like American white privilege to think that you don't need to vaccinate your kids. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm getting racial, I'm getting topical and whatever, because it's like, you really have to have grown up in America your whole life in order to think that vaccines cause more harm than good. I cannot process that this woman is still an anti-vaxxer when somebody's like, I'm not gonna vaccinate my children because I think vaccines cause autism, which has been thoroughly debunked, or because vaccines aren't vegan. Like, your veganism won't matter when your child is like dead of the measles. Like, what? Here's fun fact number 26. I am pro-vaccine because I am pro not dying of a preventable disease. I am pro not killing somebody with a suppressed immune system because of my own dumb beliefs. Anyway, I hope facts have been learned about me. I hope they were fun. I don't know how fun they were, especially considering I got really mad about vaccines there in the end, but I hope this gives you some sense of who I am as a person. Obviously, like 25 facts isn't enough to figure out the entire complexity of a person, but I figured I'd at least give you some stuff to kind of like keep in mind as we move forward with the no-buy year. So if you stuck it out to the end with me, thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope you have a great upcoming week. And even if your week ends up becoming messy and imperfect, I hope that you're still able to create and experience some truly beautiful moments. Bye!